is Lilibet's birth certificate real or faked? What's really going on? Because Meghan has a claim that Lily was born in California, but there's potentially reason to believe that this wasn't actually the case, and that in fact, she was born in Colorado.
Lady C dropped a bombshell claim that Lilibet was born to a surrogate in Colorado and flown by private jet to California for the handover. Within 48 hours, that specific claim had been torn apart by receipts from everyday people pulling out their own California birth certificates. The explosion happened fast, the debunking happened faster, and somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, Meghan Markle made a choice that tells us everything about how she handles these narratives. She said nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, before you think this is some kind of victory for the Duchess, let me walk you through what actually happened here, because the story is far more complicated than surrogate rumor gets debunked. Everyone moves on. The reason this particular conspiracy gained traction in the first place comes down to 3 digits on a birth certificate, the number 105. When people started searching that code on Google, when they asked Grok, the answer kept coming back the same: Colorado. That is the birth area code for Colorado, not California. And suddenly everyone thought they had caught Meghan in a massive lie about where her daughter was actually born. Here is where it gets interesting though. That information is outdated. A Reddit user on the St. Meghan Markle forum actually contacted the California Department of Public Health directly about this exact question. Their post from 1 year ago confirms that 105 is now California's designated code, a change implemented back in 1996 to align with federal standards from the National Center for Health Statistics. So the Google result everyone was citing as proof? It was based on a system that changed nearly 3 decades ago. The internet just never caught up. Lady C herself acknowledged this was a claim from a source, not something she was presenting as verified fact. Nancy Sidley from the Sidley twins defended her on X, pointing out that sharing a rumor while acknowledging uncertainty is fundamentally different from stating something as proven truth. Lady C discussed the matter further on her YouTube channel, leaving room for doubt rather than presenting it as established reality. But once that claim hit social media, subtlety disappeared completely. People ran with the Colorado angle because it seemed to fit a pattern of inconsistencies they had been tracking for years.
Yes, her code on the birth certificate starts with 105, but that doesn't actually mean she was born in Colorado. It still means that she was born in California.
The real question sitting underneath all of this, if the code evidence falls apart so quickly under basic scrutiny, why did millions of people want to believe it in the first place? And what does Meghan's complete silence in response tell us about how she calculates which attacks to dignify and which to let burn themselves out? Because make no mistake, this rumor exploded across platforms with serious velocity, and the woman who has a carefully placed magazine quote for seemingly every other controversy stayed completely quiet this time. That silence speaks volumes about her strategic calculations. The receipts started flooding in within days of Lady C's post going viral. Private citizen Cindy on X shared a photograph of her own daughter's California birth certificate from 2019. The code starting those 13 digits, 105, not from Colorado, born and raised in California. Brittany from Royal News Network pulled birth certificates for celebrity children born in the Golden State. Rihanna's child, code starting with 105. Kylie Jenner's daughter Stormi, same thing. Kim Kardashian's daughter Northwest with Kanye, identical 105 prefix. All California births, all documented, all publicly available to anyone willing to do 5 minutes of research. Nancy Sidley broke down exactly what those 13 digits actually mean in California's state file number system. The first digit, 1, indicates a birth registration. The next 2 digits, 05, represent California's state code in the Federal Vital Statistics Registry. The following 4 numbers indicate the year of registration, and the final 6 digits are the certificate number itself. So when you see 105 on a California birth certificate, you are not looking at a Colorado area code. You are looking at a California birth registered in the federal system. The confusion has a specific source, and True30 on X clarified it perfectly. The number 104 belongs exclusively to the Social Security Administration database for California. Meanwhile, 105 is the Federal Vital Statistics Registry code. Californians can technically have both numbers associated with their records, depending on which system generated the document. This is bureaucratic messiness, not evidence of fraud. The technical explanation is straightforward once you understand how these overlapping federal systems actually work. What struck me watching this unfold in real time was how quickly the evidence overwhelmed the accusation. Within 72 hours, the Colorado theory had been systematically dismantled by ordinary people with birth certificates in their filing cabinets and the ability to read government websites. This might be the fastest collapse of a Sussex-related conspiracy in recent memory. The receipts did the work that Meghan herself refused to do. The Duchess of Sussex has not issued a single direct statement on the birth certificate claims. No Archewell press release. No strategically placed quotes from a friend of Meghan in People magazine. No carefully worded denial through her usual media channels. This is the woman whose team leaked details about the King Charles reunion within days of it happening, briefing reporters that Camilla dropped everything to participate, that the children were awestruck meeting their grandfather. Bury the source, as commentators have taken to calling whoever feeds information to royal reporters, had plenty to say about the UK trip being a nightmare and the family fleeing early due to security concerns. But on the surrogacy rumors, complete radio silence from Montecito. The contrast could not be sharper. Team Sussex operates one of the most prolific leak machines in celebrity media. They brief extensively on topics they want controlled, shaping narratives about their humanitarian work, their Netflix projects, their complicated relationship with the palace. Yet when it comes to defending against a conspiracy theory about whether Meghan actually gave birth to her own children, the machine goes dark. The selective deployment of their media operation reveals what they consider worth fighting and what they prefer to let die quietly. There is calculation here, and it is probably smart calculation if we are being honest. Dignifying the rumor with a formal response would elevate it. A denial from Meghan herself would guarantee headlines reading Meghan Markle forced to address surrogacy claims, which keeps the story alive for another news cycle. By staying silent while evidence from third parties does the debunking, the Duchess maintains deniability that she is obsessed with her critics. She can later point to this as an example of the abuse she endures without engaging, positioning herself as the bigger person who refused to dignify nonsense with a response. The timing of her silence coincides with something else happening in the Sussex camp, though. This birth certificate drama landed right in the middle of Harry's legal loss against the Daily Mail, leaked stories about the UK trip being a disaster, and fresh speculation about the state of their marriage. Meghan may have chosen strategic non-engagement on the surrogacy question, but she may also simply be overwhelmed fighting fires on multiple fronts simultaneously. When you are battling credibility problems everywhere you turn, sometimes you simply cannot respond to everything. This Colorado conspiracy is not actually new.
That all hell has broken loose with the palace's new leaks and new information about Lilibet and Archie. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. They're getting ready to blame it all on Meghan Markle. The fake birth announcements, which, by the way, it is a crime.
Paula M. covered the birth certificate code discrepancy 2 years ago and faced intense backlash for it, including multiple attempts to get her channel removed from YouTube. The St. Meghan Markle Reddit thread discussing the same theory is dated 1 year ago. Lady C bringing it up now gave the rumor new oxygen and a much larger platform, but the underlying questions have been circulating in certain corners of the internet for years. The fact that this keeps resurfacing tells us something about the appetite for these theories among skeptical observers. The fuel that keeps these theories burning is not the 105 code, which we have now established means nothing suspicious. The fuel is everything else that remains unexplained in the public record. Lilibet's delivery doctor, Melissa Drake, closed her practice abruptly after the birth, leaving her other patients scrambling. No doctors' names were made public for either birth, which is unusual for royal children, where medical teams typically receive acknowledgement. Changes were made to Archie's birth certificate in 2019, and the reasons for those amendments have never been fully clarified. These documentation gaps create space for speculation to flourish. Paula M. claims she contacted Parliament directly asking them to verify that Archie was born at Portland Hospital. According to her, they responded that they do not have any of that information and directed her to ask the palace instead. Parliament, she points out, is supposedly the government body responsible for verifying that all requirements of the Succession Act are met before including anyone in the line of succession. If true, that is a concerning gap in documentation for children who are 6th and 7th in line to the British throne. British succession laws have historically required heirs to be born of the body. This is not some obscure technicality. It exists because history contains examples of children brought into royal lineages under false pretenses, passed off as biological heirs when they were not. The constitutional implications of an heir produced through undisclosed surrogacy would be significant, which is precisely why these questions generate such intense interest among those tracking the Sussex story. Let me be absolutely clear on something here. There is no verified evidence that surrogacy occurred for either Archie or Lilibet. Buckingham Palace has never stated it. No official records or court findings establish it. The royal family confirmed the children's existence and their meeting with King Charles during the recent UK visit. What exists is speculation from commentators, suspicions voiced by members of the Markle family, including Thomas Markle Sr. and Samantha Markle, and a collection of inconsistencies that never quite get explained satisfactorily. The 105 code theory collapsed under evidence. The broader questions persist because the documentation gaps persist. The birth certificate drama represents just one theater in what has become a multi-front credibility war for the Sussexes. Harry returned from the UK having lost his lawsuit against the Daily Mail, a case he pursued for years and lost on what observers described as fundamental grounds. Stories immediately leaked about the trip being a nightmare, about security clashes with the royal institution, about Meghan feeling humiliated watching her husband battle the palace over arrangements. The pressure on their public image has never been more intense. Then came the Time 100 Sports Gala in New York, where Harry appeared solo to deliver remarks about the Invictus Games. Meghan Markle, a woman who by all accounts cannot resist a red carpet, was conspicuously absent. The same woman who accompanied him to receive the Pat Tillman Award stayed home while her husband gave one of his most important speeches of the year. Commentators immediately noticed and speculated about what her absence might signal about the state of things in Montecito. Body language analyst Scott Rouse watched that gala speech and saw a man struggling with confidence. Harry's hand went into his pocket repeatedly, a classic low confidence indicator. He stepped backward constantly while speaking, which typically signals uncertainty. His illustrators, the hand gestures that naturally emphasize words, stayed low near his torso, rather than moving freely. And at the end of nearly every sentence, Rouse observed compressed lips, a stress marker Harry displayed throughout the entire address. The physical tells painted a picture of someone under enormous strain. Rouse called it the least confident he has ever seen Harry. The man was reading from a teleprompter with minimal energy, stumbling over phrases, backing away from his own points as he made them. This is someone delivering prepared remarks about a cause he supposedly cares deeply about, and he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else on the planet. Rouse noted that Harry's heart simply was not in it, that he appeared to be bombing and knew it. When Harry said sport is medicine, the central thesis of his entire speech, Rouse pointed out he delivered it flat, without emphasis, missing the moment entirely. The contrast with his usual public persona was striking. Lady C's other claim, buried beneath the surrogacy bombshell, was that Harry is in love with another woman of his age who is also in love with him. Royally Sage added that this alleged girlfriend lives in Montecito, and they are seen with each other when out and about. According to that source, this is a well-known secret, and Meghan is reportedly frustrated because she cannot control Harry the way she once did. These remain unverified claims from commentators, but they add to the swirl of speculation surrounding the couple's relationship. A former royal correspondent put it bluntly when discussing the Sussexes' trajectory. They tried to monetize victimhood during the Me Too era when that approach had cultural traction, but public fatigue has set in. Doors have been slammed in their face across Hollywood. They were not at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. Meghan was absent from both Emmy ceremonies where her lifestyle show could have been represented. The couple who were once compared favorably to the British royal family, whose star was really up there when they first arrived in America, now struggle to get into rooms that would have welcomed them eagerly 5 years ago. The correspondent observed that people recognize the lack of authenticity and sincerity, noting that trying to be all things for all people takes away your authenticity, and people will lose trust in you. The receipts that debunked the Colorado theory came from an organic grassroots effort, not from any coordinated Sussex response. Brittany from Royal News Network posted her findings independently. Nancy Sidley broke down the number system on X without any apparent prompting from Montecito. Private citizens shared their own documents to prove a point. Within approximately 48 to 72 hours, the evidence had overwhelmed the accusation so thoroughly that continuing to push the Colorado angle became embarrassing for anyone still promoting it. This differs completely from Meghan's usual playbook. Normally, when she faces criticism, carefully worded statements emerge from friends. Magazine exclusives appear with her perspective thoughtfully represented. Archwell issues supportive messaging. The leak machine activates to shape the story before it hardens into accepted narrative. On the birth certificate, none of that happened. The organic debunking served her interests without requiring her fingerprints on any response. The effect was interesting to watch. The rumor burned extremely hot for 2 or 3 days, dominated conversation across royal commentary channels, then collapsed under the weight of contradictory evidence so quickly that it almost seemed engineered to fail. Some observers speculate this is intentional, that if evidence exists to debunk a claim, letting others find it preserves Meghan's ability to claim victimhood while avoiding the appearance of being defensive or obsessed with critics. The strategy has a certain elegance to it, even if the underlying questions remain unresolved. Even with the birth area code thoroughly explained, the broader questions that commentators have raised for years remain unanswered. Why were amendments made to Archie's birth certificate in 2019? Why have no doctors been publicly named for either birth, when royal births typically involve acknowledged medical teams? Why did Melissa Drake close her practice so abruptly after delivering Lilibet? Why does Parliament apparently lack the documentation that should exist for children in the line of succession? Each unanswered question feeds the next round of speculation. Paula M. raises an additional point about the succession itself. Parliament is responsible for verifying requirements are met before including anyone in the line. According to her correspondence with them, they responded that they do not have the relevant information. In the history of the British monarchy, she claims, these are the only children with such documentation questions surrounding their origins. Whether that claim is accurate or not, it reflects the level of scrutiny these births continue to attract from those who believe something does not add up. Commentators have speculated about what happens if the Sussex marriage ends. Nina on X suggested that Meghan could potentially use the children's status as leverage in any negotiations, with the titles becoming bargaining chips. This remains entirely hypothetical, but the pattern is clear. Each answered question, like the 105 code, fails to stop the next conspiracy because underlying documentation gaps remain unfilled. The questions keep coming because the answers never fully satisfy. The public watched surrogate bombshell trend across social media platforms, then watched receipts systematically dismantle the specific evidence being cited. But here is the thing about the Sussexes that everyone tracking their story understands by now. Perception did not actually improve. Debunking one claim does not rebuild trust that has been eroded across dozens of incidents over years. The damage calculus runs deeper than any single rumor. Even debunked rumors consume oxygen. They force allies to defend. They remind audiences of every previous inconsistency that was never adequately explained. They keep the Sussex brand associated with controversy, suspicion, and drama. Meghan's silence may have worked as damage control on this particular claim, but silence does not function as reputation repair. It just prevents additional self-inflicted wounds, while the underlying credibility problems remain unaddressed. The UK reunion paradox tells us something about what Team Sussex considers actually threatening to their interests. Details about meeting King Charles leaked within days. Camilla dropped everything to participate. The children were awestruck seeing their grandfather. These details came from somewhere, and they did not come from the palace, which had explicitly stated no further information would be released. Barry the source was working overtime to shape that narrative in a favorable direction. Yet on the birth certificate claims, nothing. Complete silence. This suggests a hierarchy of concerns in Montecito. Controlling the story around reconciliation with the royal family matters enough to deploy the leak machine immediately. Defending against surrogacy accusations does not merit the same response, perhaps because engaging would only amplify them, or perhaps because there is nothing helpful to say. The selective silence reveals their strategic priorities with uncomfortable clarity. A former royal correspondent offered this observation about the Sussexes' fundamental problem: do not pretend to be something you are not. Their pattern of actions contradicting words, privacy campaigns while posting children, anti-press lawsuits while briefing press, creates an environment where any rumor seems plausible to skeptical observers. When you have repeatedly demonstrated that your public statements do not match your private behavior, people stop giving you the benefit of the doubt on anything. Trust, once lost, proves extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. The correspondent noted something else worth considering.
Harry and Meghan were so venomous. We felt sympathy for King Charles and Queen Camilla. You know, he just lost his father, he just lost his mother. You've got Harry releasing a book and a television show. I mean, you couldn't imagine betraying a member of your family like that.
The Sussexes' behavior may have inadvertently helped the British monarchy. Because Harry and Meghan were so venomous in their attacks, the public felt sympathy for King Charles and Queen Camilla. The royal family showed grace in how they responded, and that contrast made the institution look better by comparison. The one time Prince William responded directly, saying "we are very much not a racist family," was unprecedented. In 13 years working with the royals, the correspondent had never seen a family member answer a media question during an engagement before. That moment revealed the depth of feeling about what Harry and Meghan had done. Where we opened with Colorado conspiracies exploding online, we close with a fuller picture of what this episode reveals. The 105 code theory collapsed under evidence within days. That is a fact. But the speed of that collapse did not rehabilitate the Sussexes' image or quiet the underlying skepticism. Instead, it demonstrated something everyone paying attention already knew. This couple is fighting credibility battles on every conceivable front, and even when they win a round, the war continues unabated. Meghan's surprise move to stay silent may have worked on this specific claim. The receipts spoke for themselves, but silence has not silenced the broader skepticism that follows her everywhere she goes. Each new controversy arrives before the last one fully fades. Each debunked rumor gets replaced by 3 new questions. The pattern shows no sign of breaking anytime soon. I want to hear your take on all of this. Comment below and hit subscribe if you have not already.